Okay. Now let me share my screen so you can all see. Okay, I believe my screen should now be visible for everyone to see. Okay, now let's continue back to our class. So I was actually talking about the categories of SQL we have, and I believe I'll be able to explain what DDL means. DDL actually means what's it called? Data definition language. DML means data manipulation language. Now, like I said earlier, data definition language, what it actually means is you want to maybe you just got to a new house and you want to create or you want to craft your own wardrobe. Now, the first thing you're going to do is you need, apart from the plan, you are going to actually need maybe your carpenter or whoever it is to, what is it called, to join together the woods, what is it called, the nails, and whatever the materials are going to be there. That is actually the definition form of your wardrobe. Now, for you to basically start interacting with the database, you are going to create a data definition language. Data definition language, like I said earlier, you join together the wood, you use your hammer to join two woods together with the use of the wood. Then each cupboard, each set of the wardrobe, maybe the parts for the clothes. Please, can we? Am I audible enough, please? Actually, am I audible enough? Okay. So now, when you start joining together your wardrobe, maybe the wood, maybe you want your wardrobe to actually have a little fire on that, so you can actually travel from one side to the other. That is the decoration part of your wardrobe. Now, for the manipulation part of your wardrobe, it is after you've actually set each component. Maybe this is actually the part I'm going to be putting my clothes. This is the part I'm going to be putting iron clothes. This is the part I'm going to be putting my body cream, body maybe toothpaste and all. This is actually the part I'm going to be putting also my shoes and all. That is the manipulation aspect. Manipulation aspect is where you want to start inserting each set of the component of your wardrobe you actually make. That is the DML, which is what we call data manipulation language. Now, for the control language and transaction control language, that's DCL and STCL. You will see the differences between the two is the data and the transaction. As we all know what transaction is. Transaction is actually I am buying something, I am paying you. Now you want to buy from me, you pay to me. Now I am having 2,000 inside my bank account. Then I go to an ATM machine like I explained earlier. I put in what's it called? I put in my ATM card into the POS. Now the amount I am having inside my own account is 4,000. I withdraw 2,000. Automatically, I am only going to have 2,000 only in my bank account. Why? Because the transaction control language is being set in a way that they call it automate transaction control language. It means once you press in your PIN, that is, maybe for example, your own PIN is 23456. Once you press in your PIN to the POS machine, the deduction is going to be made in two ways. It's going to be made in your account and it's going to be made into the person's account. So it means we have deduction and we have addition. That's transaction control language. TCL is more about deduction and addition. You deduct from this place, whatever you deduct from this place, you add it to this place. Now, another form of transaction control language is, let me put it in this way. For example, you have a date format. You have a date of year, month, and day. You have year, you have month, then you have your date also. Then you have hour, minute, and seconds. Now, if you notice in this year, month, and day, we all have been working with data in Excel, whereby or maybe Python or even SQL, small naturally familiar in sense that you want to put the year column in a different part. Maybe you want to put the year onto a different part. Maybe like you want the year to come here, you want the month to come here, you want the days to come here. Now, in Excel, the perfect way of basically doing this is you can actually use what we call text, TEST. Now, once you put text in Excel, then whatever column you want to reference, you reference it, then you put the format. Maybe you want it to year and month only, or you want it in only month. That is actually how it's going to work. That is in Excel. Now, in what is it called? In SQL, if you want to extract the year, the month, the day, hours, minutes, and seconds onto a different column, the best way to do it is use the word extract. Now, that is what everybody knows. Use extract, extracting maybe the year from this social date, you extract this from this social date, you extract the month, you extract the day, hour, minute, and seconds. But there's something they call, now if I want to use a TCL method, I call the transaction control language. There's something they call creating a function and triggering a function. Now I call it creating a function, creating a function, and then you trigger the function. Now the essence of the function is this: you create a function. Maybe your function is actually you inputted a key. What was it called? Okay, you are with your neighbors. You have your own flat. He also has his own flat. Now each person is going to be having his own key to his own apartment. Now triggering or creating a function means that is the key. Triggering a function is once I input my key into my door lock, it should unlock it. That is, you create a trigger to make the function work. You create a function, your function is actually you loaded your key to your own apartment. Now you now trigger the function to unlock your own house. That is, you input, before you can trigger your function to unlock your house, you have to input your key inside the door lock. Once you put your key inside the door lock, once you press, like either to the right or the left, that is triggering the function. Automatically the function is going to work. Now, triggering the function is actually the best, and creating the function is actually the best, in the sense that you might actually have data of maybe like 2,000 or 3,000 units and maybe like 16 columns. You don't have time, trust me, you cannot be updating it every now and then. You start doing extract year from this, extract day from this, extract month from this. So the best thing you do is you do the TCL format. That's the transaction control language format. You create a function. The function is going to be once a user inputs a date in this format into this so column, trigger the function in the sense that put the year what was it called column in, put the year format into the year column, the month format into the month column, the day format into the day column, then hours, minutes, and seconds into different columns. How does this actually occur? Let's start with like I said earlier. I created what was it called? I created a file, which is you come here, you click on creating new file. Whatever you want to do, remember, you must always put in the extension of whatever you want to do. I want to name it, you can name it anything. If you are doing a Python file, it has to be .py. Like I said earlier, if you are doing what's it called an SQL file, it has to be .SQL. If you are doing what's it called a C, that's C and C++ programming, it has to be in .c file. PHP has to be in .php. Now, what are the differences between these? If you notice most of the files here, you see .SQL, .SQL, they are all in the database format. You see a database picture in front of them. Now, if you notice this retail.py, you see this is a Python format. It is not bringing for me a database. It is bringing for me a data image. That is the differences. So it means in this particular in this particular section, I can only write a Python file inside. Let me give you a good example. If I should put selecting all from retail customer here, retail transaction there. Now you notice I am having something like a red line under it. The reason for having the red line is this is not a Python file. This is an SQL file. Although there are ways you can actually write SQL inside Python. Ways are you use something like, they call it the query format. Then you put something like that. They call this basically double quotation. Then whatever basically you want to write, you write it inside. You put maybe like I'm selecting off my retail transaction. Then you do something like what is it called? PD_2. Then you put something like PD dot, you read your SQL format. Then the query and then whatever your engine is. Now this is actually where you can write an SQL inside Python. This is not what we are going to. Now you'll be able to differentiate between the PY, the SQL, and whatever it is. Now for our HOD stage, like I said earlier, I am not using an SAS. I am using an IES. So automatically I have to connect my database back. Now once connecting my database, the first thing you do in your SQL after creating it is you need to create the database you will be interfering with. Now, if you notice in my own image here, you see something like this line, they call slash. You see something like Abdulmuiz 9897. This is my database. Now, I want to create a different database I'll be working with. The normal syntax, create database, the name of your database, HOD step. Let me use HOD step here. This database I actually want to create. Now I'm creating a database into this particular server. This particular server here. Now, in your own, if you are using my SQL or whatever you are using Microsoft SQL, that's the same as you are using Postgres. It is all the same thing. The only syntax you need to do is you create database, whatever database you are creating database, then your database, the name of the database. Creating, remember, like I said earlier, creating is actually part of what? It is part of definition. That is, I want to start hammering my names into my room. That is a definition format. I just want to start building my wardrobe. So I'm just starting to hammer my nails into my room. That is the DDL format. Now, what I'm going to do is I do creating the database, whatever you want to create should be there. Then the name of the database should actually was what it should follow. Now the next thing is I'm actually executing this. So once I execute this, you see something like database is actually created. The same way you are seeing it here is the same way you'll be seeing it in whatever was the application you are using. Now once I already create it, the next thing I'm going to do is, if you are using SSMS, you need to put this instead of just filtering for your database manually. When you start finding your database at the left hand side, maybe like an hook here, the best thing to do is just put in this column. Use the name of the database. Just use this particular syntax. Use the name of the database. Once you put use the name of the database, then you execute automatically. The database name is going to come here. But this does not actually work for PSP, so I have to search it manually. Now, you notice this change from Abdulmuiz 997 Now I am can initiate your GitHub code space into your VS Code. This suggestion is going to be coming for you. It's an automatic process. Once you initiate your code space, maybe for a particular repository you created on GitHub to your VS Code, most of this was because this is going to be coming for you. Now, like I said earlier, we want to create a wardrobe. Now we're creating a wardrobe. I'm very sorry because the screen is not correct. Okay, I was actually giving the main spelling. Now I want to create a wardrobe. Now the wardrobe I'm going to be creating today is going to be based on this meeting we are doing. So I'm going to be assigning, like I said earlier, we are working with this. This is what we are working with. Now creating, if you notice I use create, this is what I'm using in creating my wardrobe. And I said create what is it called? Table. The name of the table is wardrobe. Now in this particular wardrobe, if you notice I'll be putting clothes, I'll be putting bags, I'll be putting books, I'll be putting there will be a part for hanging section, there will be a part for dirty clothes. So that is actually what I'm doing now. Now I'm going to assign an ID. Now my ID, let's come back to it. I made mention of something called Syria in this data type. And I said if they are using SSMS, you see you should use identity 1 of 1. That is increment starts from 1, increase by 1. That's the meaning of 1, 1. Starts from 1, increase by 1. So automatically, if you are starting from 1, it has to be going as 1 plus 1 is going to 2. So plus 1 again, that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is for SSMS. If you are using my SQL, you use auto increment. Now, how do you use it? I'm using Postgres, so I'm going to be using Syria. Now, I want my ID for each of the participants to be how should I call it, to be increasing by itself without me touching it or tampering with it. So automatically, if I should put 1,000 columns, if I should put 2,000 columns or rows here, I'm going to be having 1 to 2,000. That is it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting serial. That is ID of serial, and I'm making my ID to be my primary key, which is the concept.
Boss, we have a message here.
Okay.
Mr. Wazino, he said maybe I think she said she's trying to understand. Maybe help us to break it into as you have been helping us to break it into simpler terms.
Sorry, I can't hear you very well. You said
as you have been helping us to break it into simpler terms. Please.
Yes.
Mr. Wazino said she's trying to understand. She said she's trying to understand.
Okay.
So
that's Mustafa Zainab.
start of the query.
Okay,
Like, yeah, the
okay,
query
okay.
determines.
Let me just start back from the query. Now, this is what you need to know. In whatever you want to do in SQL, it is always consisting of three consecutive sections. It's always consisting of three sections. The first section is actually what's it called? What you want to do. Maybe for a typical example now, you want to create a what's it called? A wardrobe. The first thing you are going to need is what? The main thing you are going to need is your what's it called? Your hammer and your nails. Now, whatever you want to do, like I said, is going to consist of three sections. Let me put it as this. This is going to be your first section. Now, this is going to be your second section. This is going to be your second section, then this is going to be your third section. Automatically. Now, you have your first section here, second section here, and your third section. Now, your first section is always going to be any of these categories. Your first section is going to be any of these categories. Either it's a DDL or a DML or a TCL or a DCL. Any of these categories. That is going to be your first section. Your second section is going to be what do you want to create? Let's do it like this. First section is going to be your what's it called? Categories of SQL. That's going to be your first section. Now your second section is going to be what do you want to create? Maybe for a simple example, I want to create a table, I want to create a database, I want to create what's it called? I want to create a table, a database, or whatever you want to create. Now your third section is now going to contain the name you want to use in naming it. The third section is always going to contain the name. That is anything you want to use to name that thing you are creating. These are the three sections. First section is the category. The category of the SQL, which is either data manipulation, data reduction, transaction control, or data control. Any one of them. Second section is actually I want to create a table, I want to create a schema, I want to create this and that. Now, bringing it as a real life scenario. The first section is going to be what are the things you need. The things I'm going to be needing are I'm going to be needing what's it called? I'm going to be needing hammer, I'm going to be needing nails, I'm going to be needing wood, I'm going to be needing what's it called? A carpenter. Those are the first section. Now your second section is actually going to be what do you want to create? What I want to create is a wardrobe. Abi, that's your second section. Now your third section is what do you want to name your wardrobe? I want to name it my wardrobe. For example, first section is I want to create wardrobe. I'm going to be needing wood. I'm going to be needing nails. I'm going to be needing hammer. I'm going to be needing the carpenter itself. That's the first section. Now your second section is now going to be what do I want to create? I want to create a wardrobe. I want to create a table, a chair, or a furniture. Anything I want to create, that's going to be your second That's going to be your second section. Now your third section is now going to be what do I want to name it? What do I want to name whatever I am creating? Now that's your third section. Now this is actually the three sections you'll be working with. Is this actually understood now? Please drop it on the so I can see. Continue the class.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now it offers now these are the three sections. Now starting, we want to create a database. Whatever you are actually doing on your SQL, you have to create a database. It means that database is actually what is going to consist of every data and everything you want to store. That is your database. For example, you want to create a wardrobe. Now your wardrobe is going to contain your clothes, your bags, your nail kits, nail filing, maybe your body wash and everything. That is what the wardrobe is going to contain. So your clothes and everything is contained inside your wardrobe. Now you have to first create your wardrobe before you are able to put anything inside your wardrobe. Now that wardrobe is what we call database. How do you create your database? Whenever I said first category, first section is going to be category of the SQL. Now I want to create. You have create, you have replace, you have alter, you have replicate, Now I am not replacing. I just want to create my wardrobe, so I'm using create. That's the first thing.
I type it
The second thing
somewhere
is
else, right?
actually what do you want to create? I want to create a wardrobe. So your wardrobe in SQL is
You
what
know
we
I
call
was
table.
typing.
That's your wardrobe. Now the third thing is what do you want to name that your wardrobe? I want to name it. Let me put this as my wardrobe. I want to name it as my wardrobe. That's what I want to name it. The first section, remember, first section is going to be what do I want to create? What is the thing I want to do? I just want to start building my wardrobe, so it is create. After you've actually built your wardrobe, maybe you want to replace it. You use the replace. That's the category of the SQL you are using. Now, what do you want to create? I want to create a wardrobe. So, create table. Your wardrobe in SQL. SQL does not know what is called wardrobe, but it knows what is called table. So, you are creating a table. First section is going to be the name you want to use in storing your wardrobe. This is mostly peculiar to emails where you say, okay, this is my wardrobe. Maybe for example, you have a pet like dog. You can give him any name you want to give him. That is the name you are naming it. Now, in this particular section of it, now coming back here, okay, sorry. Now, in this wardrobe, what are the things I'm going to be needing? Now, I'm going to be needing my clothes in there. I'm going to be needing my shoes in there. I'm going to be needing my toothpaste, my toothbrush, my body cream, my hair cream. Everything is actually going to be there. Now, in this particular wardrobe, I want to name each part. For example, I want to name the clothes part to be the clothes. I want to name the shoes part to be the shoe rack. I want to name what's it called? The hair cream, body cream, hair wash, everything to be maybe like the body part. Then I want maybe my parts part to actually be the back part. So, I'm going to give each component where I'm going to be putting different materials. I'm going to name it. That's the next thing we need to do. Now, I'm going to be creating an ID. ID actually means I'm creating a unique name for each of my components. Where there are shoes, I want them to be called shoe rack. Where there are clothes, I want them to be called clothes parts. Now, clothes part is going to be the number one, shoe rack is going to be the number two, that's the one below the clothes part is the shoe rack, that's the number two. Number three is going to be the body scrub, body cream, hair cream, and pro part, that's going to be number three. Number four is going to be the, what's it called, bag, if you are putting bag inside. Number five is going to be the boot. Now, instead of me just writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I want the system to automatically number it for me. So what I'm just going to be doing is I'm going to be creating it as an ID. And the next thing I'm going to be putting is, like I said earlier, in this particular class, you have something they call serial identity 1 of 1 and open elements. Serial actually is using POSTGRESQL. Identity 1 of 1 is using SSMS. Open elements is actually using my SQL. So whatsoever that application you are using, you can use any of this. Now myself as a person, I'm using POSTGRESQL, I'm going to be using serial. Now what I'm just going to be doing is I'm going to input serial after my ID. I want to assign my ID. This is a number to each of the components of my wardrobe. The clothes part should be named number 1. The book part should be named number 2. The maybe like the shoe part should be named number 3. But I cannot be naming them 1, 2, 3, 4 because I may actually have a wardrobe of maybe like up to 100 components. So I cannot be naming them 1. I want this system to just automatically put in a number for me. So what I'm just going to be doing is I'm going to put in my ID. Then my name is serial. If they are using SSMS, you just put what they call identity 1 of 1 here. Identity 1 of 1 here. So you are going to put identity 1 of 1. Now, there are 3 things. Remember I was saying about the 3 sections. First section is the category of SQL. The second section is actually what do I want to create. Now the third section is going to be what do I want to create. Now, after you are done with creating your wardrobe, maybe your carpenter have actually tied this for you, the next category is also going to come in 3 sections also. Now that 3 sections is going to be the name you want to name a particular section. After this, the next is now going to come as name. After your name is going to come as the data type. Remember I talked about data type in that. So then your data type. Then the next is going to come as a constraint. Now your name is going to be what do you want to name the column? That's one. The data type is going to be what do you want to assign to that column. For a typical example, I am naming my cupboard my wardrobe. So I'm naming my wardrobe. I'm naming the wardrobe I created my wardrobe. Now each of the components I am naming them the clothes part, the what's it called? The back part, the hair cream and body lotion part. Now the data type is for this particular part, I want only clothes to be there. So automatically, clothes part is going to only contain clothes. Let me design what's it called, a wardrobe for us. Now let's assume this is actually our wardrobe. Now inside our wardrobe, we have maybe like 4 components. Now we have component 1, component 2, component 3. Now we have component 1, component 2, component 3, and component 4. Now we have component 4. Now component 1 is only consisting of clothes. Then I am naming it clothes part. That's component 1. Component 2 is actually consisting of body lotion. So I am naming it body lotion part. Component 3 is actually consisting of shoes. So I am naming it shoe part. Component 4 is now consisting of let me see. Component 4 is consisting of books. Then I am naming it books part. Now, remember as I said earlier, component 1 is the clothes part. So automatically that clothes part is going to be my ID. Like if you notice, I put 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I am actually typing it myself. I want the system to automatically put in the numbers. So that is going to be, my name is going to be ID. That's one. Then if I want the system to automatically put in 1, 2, 3, 4 for me, without me stressing myself or anything, I'm going to put the data type, which is going to be serial. Now they are using MySQL. MySQL is going to be auto increment. That's MySQL. If you are not using MySQL, you are using SSMS, it's going to be identity. So identity of 1 of 1. Identity 1 of 1. Identity 1 of 1 is going to start from 1 and keep increasing by 1. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now Zion, what do you do? I hope you can understand now. Okay, now let's continue the class. Now that is actually what that is about. Now in my own table, that's my own wardrobe. I want it to contain the ID. I want it to contain, like I said earlier, I am actually using this particular meeting as an example. So in this meeting, we have different names. Now, and each of the names is actually having its own email. Everybody is having their own different gender. Everybody is having their own department they have, and everybody is actually having their own emails. So I'm going to use that as an example. Remember, what do you want to name your column? I want to name it ID. Then I want it to actually to be serial, auto increment, what's it called? Identity 1 of 1, whatever it is. Now, putting it as a serial. Putting it as a serial, I want you to keep increasing by 1. What is the constraint? That is the condition I want you to put this particular column. For example, in my wardrobe, the clothes part should not contain shoes, and the clothes part should not contain clothes. That is the condition I'm putting in my wardrobe. So for this particular ID, I want it to be my primary key. Like I said earlier, school A and school B as a Head boy is actually the primary key in school A, and head boy B is actually the primary key in school B. What I mean by that is the first citizen in school A is going to be head boy A, and the first citizen in school B is going to be head boy B. Now, if you want to reference from school A, head boy B, you have to call him to come to your school. That is actually a foreign key. Head boy B does not belong to your school. Once head boy B actually enters your school, head boy B is a foreigner in your school. For example, if you travel abroad, or maybe like a white person actually comes down to Africa, they call them foreigners. That is a foreign person. You initially in your own location, you are a foreign to your location. Once you move from your location to another country, you are not a foreign key, you are a foreign key, you are a foreign key. Now I'm assigning basically a constraint. The constraint is going to be my condition. I want it to be the primary key. That is, I want it to be the unique value. It is not going to contain anything like duplicate. Maybe you see one twice, you see number two twice, you see number three twice. Never. Now that's the ID. Now I also want to add name of each of the words of students in this meeting. I have my name. Now I explained variable characters earlier. If you notice my ID, I did not put anything like integer or what's it called? Maybe I want it to be an alphabet, I want it to be numbers. The serial automatically is in integer. It means it's going to be assigning numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is an integer. Now, but for my name, the name of what's it called? Students in this meeting, they are in alphabet. For example, we have Mariam, we have Ibrahim, we have Introduce, we have Introduce here. Now, all these are actually words for the alphabet, they are no numbers. So, if I want to input my name, it's going to be in variable character. Now, how long do you think everybody's name in this page can actually have? Maximum of maybe your first name or your last name or your middle name, maximum of the length is going to be maybe like 10 or 20. So just to actually prevent you can just put 30 there. So variable character of maximum of 30 characters. What's the next thing? My constraint. What is the condition I want to put to this name? The condition I want to put to this name is that I don't want it to be null. That is where the not null comes in. Null means you cannot do without inputting a name inside this particular table. What do I mean by that? Inside the clothes table, inside the clothes wardrobe part, you cannot do without putting your clothes there. Why? Because there is no way you are not going to have that. So it means that particular component of your wardrobe is a not for clothes. It means that you cannot do in a day without putting clothes there. Now, if you notice in the shoe section, you might actually not put shoe or whatever sneakers or sandal you're actually wearing on the shoe rack. It means that is actually no. There are some kinds of pictures shoe rack and actually like anything. Let's just say you want to start cleaning your house, you can start arranging your back. Now that is actually that one is not. Now the name you cannot do without putting without putting name. Now inside this table, if you're actually filling this table now, for example, and you do not input the name, automatically it's going to bring out error. Something like this, you see an error here. It will be in red format. It means it's going to tell you the name you are putting, the particular insertion you are doing does not contain name. Please, are we all following?
I've already paid half of it. It's not yet.
Okay. Seems like I'm making. So let me just put us through how we are going to do it. Now, once we are actually creating the table, the next thing we want to create is we want to put the age of students. Now, automatically, age is going to be in integer. Now, I want to do something. The name of students in this particular meeting, anybody below 18 years of age should not enter my table. What I'm just going to do is I'm just going to do check. Now I'm going to do check. Then I'm going to do open bracket. That is, it is actually lesser than 18. Age greater than 18. If I want the person to start from 18 upwards, age is greater than most of the cost of 18 automatically. So it means it is once you put your age and your age is maybe like 17, it's not going to accept this. This is actually similar to what I said earlier, where the Senate said anybody below 18 should actually be denied admission. That is the check-in. Well, even if the person should actually pass it, once the person is below 18, the university should not offer the person admission. That is the check constraint. Now then, with this, I also want to input maybe email. Now, the email of each person is going to be so at gmail.com. So at gmail.com. Now, that is going to be in alphabet. Then, this is going to be Vaka of this is baby characters in 50. Now, I want this to be unique. What do I mean by unique? Two persons cannot have the same email. And two persons cannot have the same Gmail. You all have to have different Gmails. Now, how do we do this? I have already created my table. It means I already told the carpenter what my wardrobe is going to contain. It's going to contain the clothes section, it's going to contain the coat section, it's going to contain the body lotion section, it's going to contain the shoe section, and all and all. Now let's start what to do just to execute this. Okay, having an error here. Yes, the reason I'm having an error is because of this. So once I delete this, that's what I use the training. Then I create the powerhouse account. Now the table has actually been created. If I want to check my table, that is what I'm going to use what they call the data manipulation language. That is, I want to check whether my clothes is on the clothes section, whether my books is on the book section, whether my shoes is on the shoe section. This time, the only thing we just need to do is you go there, you do your wardrobe, and check, okay, clothes is here, go to the shoe is here. Now, how do you check within your system? What you're just going to do is select all. It's going to select all. All is actually used of SQL. You select all, then you use from what's the name of the wardrobe? My wardrobe. Then you highlight, click on it. Now, can you see our wardrobe has actually been selected? Now, you see now, I don't have name, I have page. Now, it's going to check, maybe in the process of working, you want to check where in this particular wardrobe. Maybe does this particular wardrobe contain green clothes? Does this particular wardrobe contain? Does the shoe section contain the shoe? Does the clothes section contain the clothes? Now there is actually something they call you select your column name. Now you can all just note this one down. You select your column name, comma the data type. Remember I said earlier, this is actually the name you are naming the column. This is data type. Integer, characters, then you select your data type. Now once you select it, you are going to select from information schema. Information schema is actually what's it called? What is providing how do you know if you want to check your plate? You go to the kitchen, you don't go to your wardrobe. How do you know if you want to ease yourself, you go to the toilet and not to the bedroom? Now this is actually places that are storing that are used for different purposes. Your bedroom is used for what's different from what your toilet is used for. Your kitchen is used for what is different from what your parlor is used for. Information schema is actually where everything you are doing inside your database is. If you want to select the column, you get the column from there. You want to select your table constraint from the constraint there. And if you can remember earlier, as I said, you have your column name. Like I said earlier, divided into you have your column name, you have your data type, and then you have your constraints. Now these are the two things. Now I want to check my column name and my data type. How do I check this? I'm just going to say select column name and data type from information schema.column, that is from this particular place. That is, I want to check whether my plates are in the kitchen. So whatever I'm doing, I have to go to the kitchen. I want to check if my bed is in the bedroom. I need to go to the kitchen. I have to come to the bedroom. Now this information schema is where the column name and data type are actually used. Then the next thing, what's the name of your table?
For a month.
What does this actually mean? This means where is the place you are going to check your bed? That's your bed. Where is the place you are going to check your gas? That's your kitchen. So automatically you have to specify. Once you specify, you run it. You are going to see your column name and data type. Now you see your ID is having integer. Like I said earlier, Syria automatically will post this integer. Auto increment is going to be an integer. Identity wise is going to be integer. Age is also an integer. Name is actually in character variant. Image is also in character variant. Now, if I want to check for the constraints, I want to check for the column name and then the constraints, not the column name and the data type. The column name and the constraints. The ways to check for it is going to be the same thing, but it's different thing. You just select the constraint. You select your constraint name and then your constraint type. You select your constraint name, your constraint type. Now from like I said earlier, information schema is actually what contains it. But this one is going to be column because you have a column name. Now we are checking for constraint, so it's going to be table constraint. From where do you want to check it? Now your wardrobe again. once you actually select this, you are going to see the name for each of the column you created. Now you see in this particular aspect, you see we have my wardrobe A check is in check format. That is the A check, like you said here. Primary key is the primary key. That is my ID is the primary key. Email is actually unique. We don't want it to be the same thing. Now we have name should actually be not null. That is check that it is not null and then check that it is not null. So automatically you are able to check your column name and your constraint, and I will say your column name and data type. So with this, I think we will be coming to the end of the class today. So thank you, and we will actually be continuing from where we stopped. Thank you very much.